following show contains adult content. It's not our intent to offend anyone, but we want to inform you that if you are a child under the age of 18 or get offended easily, this next show may not be for you. The content, opinions, and subject matter of these shows are solely the choice of your show hosts and their guests, and not those of the Entertainment Network or any affiliated stations. Any comments or inquiries should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, and welcome to 50 Shades of Bullshit. I'm your host, Christine Lalonde, and this is the podcast where we uncover the truth about online dating. Now let's begin. Hey, I'm Christine.
I'm Jada.
And this is 50 Shades of Bullshit.
Yes, it is. Hi.
Hi, Jada. It's Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
I was going to put my costume on, but takes a little work, and I'm going to wait.
Yeah, I understand. I don't even know when the last time was I dressed up for Halloween.
I do every year. I do something
really?
big and wild every year. This year, I'm going to be Sally O'Malley. You know, I'm 50. I'm 50 years old.
Where she says she can do a kick.
I kick and I stretch and I kick because I'm 50.
Love it. I absolutely love it. I need to see pictures, so please do share.
Okay. Oh God.
How have you been? What's going on?
Good. I'm obsessed with a couple of shows.
Okay.
By the way, are you watching the latest season of Love is Blind?
I am. And I take a pause because of many reasons. First of all, it's in DC, and I am so disappointed that they didn't have it better.
I'm disappointed because everybody feels stupid.
Yeah.
Everybody feels really superficial.
Yep.
Like, I don't know if the word is stupid or if it's fake, but everybody feels fake. And I cannot connect with one goddamn person. I don't care if any of them connect this year. I don't care if any of them succeed. And I almost don't want to finish it, but I feel like I'm going to just because.
Yeah.
But I'm trudging through it.
Yeah, I mean, I stand by what I always say. These shows have got to do better with casting more mature people. They're so young. There's so many things I could say.
Unbelievable how immature they are. That is the right word. One show that I am literally obsessed about and absolutely loving is Golden Bachelorette. Because the men on it are so fucking sweet and adorable, and oh God, they are just so endearing, and they're likable and relatable, and all of them are being so like giving of themselves, and they are just being so honest about what they're going through. It has been the best bachelor ever or bachelorette ever.
Yeah. But again, they're more mature people that have life experience and are in a space where they're just ready to find their person.
And it's no BS, just no bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
Good.
I'm loving it. Are you watching it at all?
I haven't, and I keep saying I need to start it.
Oh my God. Please do. You're going to call me going, holy shit.
Then I got to start it. Maybe that will be what my new binge series that I start.
They're being very honest and open about what it's like to lose a spouse and that pain and what it's like to go through a divorce and to, be older and have, kids and grandkids, and it's just really interesting. And I really want them to find love more than I want some 20-year-old to find love.
I would agree.
Yeah, I could give a shit.
There's another. Did you ever watch Married at First Sight? Did you ever watch that show?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a new season of that just came out too.
Now, is it playing on anything like Hulu, Netflix, anything like that? Because if it's not, I can't see it. because I
Oh,
only have streaming
you
networks.
I
Yeah.
don't know. That's a great question. But so far, I just watched the first episode. It's based in Chicago, and actually, I think it's going to be good. So, we'll
Oh,
see.
interesting. I'm gonna have to check. You have
Yeah.
to send me what season it is so I can look and see.
Okay. Can you believe
Um,
we're at the end of the month? Like, can you believe
mm-mm,
that November
mm-mm,
is right around the corner, and then it's
mm-mm.
Christmas, and then it's a new freaking year?
No, we're going on 3 years in just like a couple of weeks. It
That's
is crazy.
wild, wild,
Wow.
wild,
What a
wild.
ride. What a ride. Well, it's been fun.
Mhm.
From the very beginning of the podcast, starting out 3 years ago, it was Thanksgiving. I think it was like the week after I started my podcast that I joined that networking group that we were
Sure.
all part of.
Yeah.
And that's when I met Janice. And Janice came on to the show. I'm trying to remember when, but she's been on the show many, many times as a guest and as a co-host.
Mhm.
Whenever a host can't join,
Yeah.
she's been filling in. She also filled in quite a bit before you came on board.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very excited. Janice is coming back. Let me tell you a little bit about her for those of you who have not had the chance to meet Janice Formichella. Then she is a breakup coach and the host of 2 podcasts, Sex and the Solo Girl and Breakups, Broken Hearts, and Moving On. She is passionate about helping people from all backgrounds to beat their breakup, overcome loneliness, and make the end of a relationship the start of a powerful new beginning. I love that, by the way. She is also a survivor of domestic violence and now uses her story to support others and raise awareness about the harmful impact of victim blaming. Today's episode is 154. We are talking about breaking the cycle, victim blaming culture. So let's bring Janice on, and
Yes.
I've got a lot of shit that I researched about it as well.
Oh, cool.
Oh, good.
Oh, cool.
Hey, Janice.
Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for having me to talk about such an important issue. And yes, I miss doing this. I love being on your show, Christine and
Aw.
Jada.
Yay.
I just said I
Well,
haven't seen you. Oh, actually, that's not true. I saw you maybe like a month ago on a Zoom, but I feel like it's been forever.
I'm always here if you want to catch up, Jada.
Oh,
love it. Love it. Well, um, we're wrapping up the month of October of Domestic Violence Awareness Month with victim blaming, and Janice and I did a IG, or was it a your episode?
It was actually an episode for the podcast, and I re-dropped it on both feeds, and it's just called Stop Victim Blaming. And Christine and I have experience with it. We're both survivors and both experience victim blaming. And so we did a wonderful episode on it. Go to either of the podcasts and you can find it. I put it back out last week.
Nice. I did see that. So I'll post that again on our feeds. Thanks for being here, Janice. I brought up I got some information here that is really about this whole, rape culture, victim blaming, the role of our society and the media. And I gotta say that I found this article that was crazy. And I really wanted to read it. I'm not sure if I'm going to read it now. Okay. Let's just I'll try to sum it up like a back cover thing. A handful of years ago, I think it was like in 2012. Yeah, August of 2012, there was a writer who wrote this article about this 16-year-old high school girl who attended a party. Okay, it was from her classmates in a small town in Ohio. And at this party, she became inebriated by alcohol and she got into a blackout state. And while in this blackout state, 2 classmates not only raped her, but they videoed it. And then they passed photos and videos of raping her all through social media and their friends. So it went through the school. She didn't know about it until the next day when she then, saw what the kids were all passing around. They went to the police, her and her family. And a large part of what happened to this girl was she was being re-victimized over and over, reoccurring in the media since the very beginning. The media went nuts and they supported these boys by saying things like, well, you had to know what was going to happen if you're going to go to a party and get drunk. The defense is that she couldn't remember it. So how could they prosecute them when in actuality, she had video? There was proof, but yet they kept saying things in the media like, oh, these poor boys and their future and shit like that just doesn't make any sense. So
Christine, Netflix did an entire documentary on this. It's called Victim Suspect. And I think it follows 4 different girls' stories of coming forward and being brave and reporting it, and then actually being accused of false reporting instead of getting any help at all. And it's a tearjerker, but it's also bringing awareness to an issue that is just very, very, very prevalent and pervasive still today. And this is why women don't report. And that's why we get accused of making things up. And then also people ask us, why didn't you report? Why didn't you say something? This documentary will let you know exactly why we don't.
Yeah. I found a report that says, fact, abuse can come in many forms such as sexual, physical, verbal, and emotional. When a person is in a relationship that repeatedly scares, hurts, or puts them down in an abusive way. It is abuse. Oh my God, I can't read today. Harassment, intimidation, forced or coerced isolation from friends and family, having an independent social life, humiliation. They separate them. They prevent them from having a social life. They humiliate, threaten, and harm you or them or their pets or family members. They threaten suicide if they leave. There's just so many ways that abuse can be perpetuated to keep someone from talking.
Yeah.
And I went through probably all of that with my abuser. Luckily, I didn't have a pet, but yes, all of that. And then only to be told that I knew what I was getting myself into in the beginning.
Right.
But also, I think there is such manipulation. They manipulate you and make you feel bad, make you feel shameful, make you feel embarrassed. They make you feel so many things. So a lot of times I believe that's part of the reason why they don't talk about it. And I did want to say, I was reading up a little bit about it today, and I know so many people believe that it's just relevant with women, but it happens with men too. Men are victims more so than what people would think, which I thought was very interesting, because I don't think a lot of people put emphasis on that part of it.
I found a couple examples. There was one that is, she must have provoked him by being into being abusive. They both need to change. And what the reality of that kind of statement is, that it's assuming that the victim is equally to blame for the abuse, when in actuality, the abuse is a conscious choice made by the abuser, because they choose on daily basis not to hurt or have abuse towards, say, their employees, their friends, their, you know, they make conscientious choices to be charming and nice all fucking day. And then they come home and abuse their spouse or their loved one. The target.
And there's nothing that you can do to make someone hit you, to make someone call you a name. This is a choice. There's nothing, it's not your fault whatsoever. You cannot coerce someone into abusing you.
Right. Right. And no amount of, you know, fighting. What I mean by fighting is that verbal fight, the yelling, the screaming, the whatever you escalate to. There's nothing that you escalate to that should ever warrant somebody calling you bad names, hitting you, pushing you, taking you down verbally, emotionally, mentally. I mean, all those things are abuse, and they tend to look. People really blame the victim because they are afraid. They don't want to relate. They have fear of, oh, if I relate to this person, or if I think that they've done something wrong, subconsciously they don't feel like it could happen to them, when in actuality it can happen to anybody.
And it makes more sense to people too, that like a bad person would get bad treatment, rather than looking conceptually and subjectively at the issue of, this is, you know, a societal issue that we've not even become close to trying to solve or touch or raise awareness about. So that makes more sense to people, that she or they must have done something
to provoke it.
Yeah, to provoke. Yeah.
Like cause and effect. This is what makes sense to people. The fact that there's monsters out there who, you know, are being socialized to get away with this is something that a lot of people can't wrap their heads around.
Right.
And then yet they do things like victim blame, which just allows it to keep going.
Exactly. I've been through the situation of being raped three times in my life. Always by somebody I know. One was by my first boyfriend. The other one was a husband, and I was leaving him. And the last one was by someone I met online who I wasn't interested in dating, but we became friends. And it happened that way. And anybody who knows me has always asked me, well, why didn't you report it? Yeah. Well, I'm not going to go through that.
Yeah.
I'm just not. And do I want them to have punishment for it? Of course. But I wasn't about to go through what I was going to have to go through to report and to try to get them to pay for what they did to me. At this point, it just, you know, I knew what I was going to go through. I knew what I was getting from before. When I told people the first time, I was 18 years old. I was at music camp, and I met a boy there. All week we were like the whole, you know, boyfriend girlfriend thing. Spent the week together, holding hands, you know, kissy kissy. It was cute, whatever. And then he raped me the night before the thing was over, and I went to the counselors, and the counselors said, "Keep your mouth shut."
Wow.
They said, this is not going to do anybody any good. It's going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt him. And I was like, I'm already the hurt one, you know, and they just pretty much told me to keep my mouth shut and to go home. So,
and also you were living with your second abuser, and that's an insurmountable hill to climb. And it is terrifying to think of actually reporting the person you live with. People do not understand that is not something that you just go and report, and then they're just going to take this man out of out of your life. My abuser, we were living together, and he raped me the first month. And I remember sitting there and shaking uncontrollably. And what was I supposed to do? It's not as easy as just going and reporting it. To me, I just thought I just need to kind of like get over this, pray to God it doesn't happen again, and just keep him calm so that maybe tomorrow could be a better day with this man in my house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of people that haven't been in the situation don't understand it. I myself, I think you both know my past with my ex-husband. I was a victim of domestic violence, and there were some situations that got really bad, and it's terrifying. And the one thing people would always say is, why don't you just turn him in? Why didn't you call the cops? Why didn't you do this? And it's like, I have 2 young kids with this person. It's not that simple. Like it's not as simple.
That's not the solution, like at all.
Exactly.
Well, why are we not teaching our men that violence is wrong? Why are we not teaching our men that the verbal abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse is just fucking wrong? Why is it always up to the victim to have to deal with it, to report it, to fix the fucking situation? Well, no. Try teaching our men not to hurt us.
It's another form of victim blaming.
Yes.
Right.
Putting the responsibility on the survivor to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I know that we're talking about men hurting women right now, but here are 3 women who it's all happened to. It's 3 out of 3.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, if I go out of my building and I knock on any door, I'm sure I can find more than half of this building has been some sort of abuse gone through. Yeah. And men, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Men are abused as well. It's just not as documented. Men don't come forward as much as women, and women don't barely come forward.
Well, and it's also a different issue of socialization when it comes to male survivors. I mean, men are brought up to think that this is acceptable. I think it's a different dynamic, if you ask me personally.
Yeah.
I also just want to touch on really quick that we all 3 also had experiences being abused by someone who we lived with, were married with, cohabitating with, and that's also something that's really misunderstood. I have heard so many times, how could your boyfriend rape you? And that's something that I think a lot of people are coming to understand, that these things can happen even when you're married to someone, living with them. But that is also a form of victim blaming. And I'm telling you, I was terrified of this man. And no amount of saying no to him was ever going to prevent him from doing it. And it's still rape, even if you have an intimate romantic relationship with them.
Well, that's interesting that you brought that up, Janice, because I was reading something today that a lot of people don't necessarily see it as such if they are in a relationship with someone, and if they have an intimate relationship with someone. A lot of people experience it and go through it, but they don't recognize and realize it's not okay. It's still, it's, whether you're together in a relationship or not, it's not acceptable.
No.
And living with someone who does this, I mean, you are living every single second in complete terror, not knowing what they're going to do next.
Yeah. Oh, it is frightening.
And reporting your partner who raped you, I mean, where is that going to go?
Where is that going to go? But also a lot of times it's reliving it and talking about it and bringing it up. And if you haven't gone through therapy or really healed and worked through that yourself personally, it's not good mentally to have to keep reliving a situation that was not the happiest situation, that was such a dark situation.
This article I found, this information I found, is really, really interesting. It's from InsideSouthern.edu. It's on sexual misconduct facts, and it's rape culture, victim blaming, and the facts. And it goes on like, what is rape culture? Examples of abuse culture, like defining manhood as dominant and sexually aggressive. That is awful. Defining womanhood as submissive and sexually passive. Not okay. Pressure on men to score, or pressure on women to not appear cold. Assuming only promiscuous women get abused or raped. Assuming that men don't get raped, or that they only seem weak if they do. Refusing to
Well, even labeling a woman as promiscuous,
right,
is a bit blamey.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that even mean? That's
right.
degrading. That's some sort of defamatory name to give her, that she's promiscuous. Like these women are promiscuous and these ones aren't. What?
Right. Well, a lot of buttoned up, what you want to call, whatever, promiscuous women and men, they're raped all the time. It has nothing to do with what a person is like, or what they wear, or what they say, or what they do. It has nothing to do with it. So this is the thing I found, that when I was saying earlier about people distancing themselves. It says one reason people blame a victim is to distance themselves from an unpleasant occurrence and therefore confirm their own invulnerability to the risk. By labeling or accusing the victims, others can see the victim as different from themselves. People reassure themselves by thinking, because I'm not like her, because I do not do that, this would never happen to me. We need to help people understand that this is not a helpful reaction. So
I experienced that. As everybody knows, I'm Mormon, or I come from a Mormon family, and I had my mom tell me that because I had chosen to date an alcoholic, that I knew what was coming to me. And you're gonna love this, Christine. She also said that it was because I hadn't followed the word of wisdom, which is the church's like dietary code, that I had brought all of these bad things into my life because of choosing to not follow the word of wisdom, which says, yeah, you don't smoke, you don't drink, which are the main things, drugs. And yeah, that was a choice on my part that had kind of like opened the door to all of this, bad fortune and abusive bullshit that I had gone through.
I do think people in a certain religious atmosphere tend to victim blame.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think
definitely my experience.
Well, yeah. And you, Janice, have had your previous relationships or current relationships or relationships in general, has that affected how you date or how you manage people? I know for myself, it took me a while to like trust and be in a normal, healthy relationship. But do you think that that's affected how you?
It did for a while. I'm definitely not a generally trusting person. I'm also not a very forgiving person because of a lot of this. Not just the abuse, but also how my parents treated me and being told all of these things by the people I'd gone to for help. For the first few years after I left my abuser, and then subsequently became estranged from my family, I was probably the most classically avoidant person that you would ever meet. It's like, yes, I wanted connection, I wanted to date, but as soon as anything became like at all intimate, I was like, you are being weird, get away from me. And I don't want to have deep and meaningful conversations. I feel, like you're clobbering me. I feel like I don't have any space. I ruined, I wasn't ready for a relationship, but definitely ran from a lot of situations just because of general fear of intimacy and fear of being, controlled and not trusting that a man had honest intentions.
Yeah,
I've gotten
100%.
I've to a certain extent. Like, I am a very, very choosy person when it comes to my relationships. But yes, it has for sure. Also, I was love bombed by my abuser, which is partially how I ended up getting into it. And so that is something we didn't have terminology for love bombing back. This was about 10 years ago. But today, I'm very, very, very aware of it.
Mm-hmm. I think we should actually do an episode on love bombing. I think it'll be a very beneficial episode. But when the first time, I had just left home, my car was packed to the gills with all my stuff to move. And on my way to moving from high school, I went to music camp and had this situation happen, and then had the camp counselors not support me and help me. And it took me a while to tell my mom. And then when I did, in her own way, she victim blamed me. What did you do? Where were you? How could you let that happen? A lot of little things that I don't think she meant it in a bad way. She just didn't understand, what a lot of people are uneducated when it comes to the way they should speak to people when they are abused in some way. So it made.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say it made me untrusting on talking to somebody who I thought would help me, and nobody had ever helped me. So I just turning people in wasn't the way to go. So.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Janice?
If someone does go to you for support, and that's one reason we have Domestic Violence Awareness Month, is to not only raise awareness for the issue, but also what you can do as an advocate. If somebody in your life is going through this or comes to you, just go online and Google what to do if your friend is a survivor, what to do if your friend is being abused, what to tell somebody, how to support. Just go on and educate yourself.
Yeah.
And do better.
Yes. Do better. And there's, like you said, Janice, there's so many resources. I was looking today. They have victim blaming quizzes. So if you feel that you are in that position, but you're unsure what that looks like, go online. There's so many resources, and it guides you essentially into who to reach out to, what types of things to do, how to get out of certain situations. I think it's a lot of it is dependent on where you live, because different states and cities have different resources. But oh my gosh, the internet is such an incredible tool. So use it.
Yes, you have no excuse for victim blaming somebody. There's the entire world at your fingertips. Go and see how you can show up for this person.
I think the victim blaming can be just as destructive as the actual abuse when you are in such a fragile state and you just need someone to support you and help you through it, even if it's emotionally or just to hug you physically. It's I think it can be just as damaging. I did that exact same thing, Janice. I actually Googled how to help somebody. And I found something on healthline.com, and it's just really important to show the person that their emotions are valid. And when talking with them, try using supportive language. And I have a couple of supportive language things for you guys.
Oh.
I believe you. That is the most important. Sorry. Some people didn't want to believe me, and that's fine. But being told that someone believes that something happened to you is huge. This is not your fault, or you have done nothing to deserve this. That's another one. I'm sorry this happened to you. Here's a great one. I'm really glad you confided in me. That must have taken a lot of courage. And just reminding them that they're not alone, and giving them safe and judgment free space, and encourage them to seek help. And just, be present with them. Make them feel safe, and be patient, and maybe even help create a plan to leave safely if they're still in a situation. There's a lot of things that people can do, but that's a great one. Healthline.com. That has some really additional great things that y'all can check out. I think it can be just as damaging.
Yes, there were so many nights when I was staying with my parents right after I had fled because cops were even involved. I was living in Europe. I had nowhere to go. I ended up crashing with my parents. Big mistake. There were so many nights where I sat there thinking either I shouldn't have left or maybe I should just go back because this is horrible. Nobody is supporting me. Like every day asking me when I'm going to leave, every day saying that's what you get for dating an alcoholic. And I kept on thinking like, at least there were some days when I was with him that were, had joy and freedom and a lack of judgment. So I did think many times, I regretted leaving even.
That's how so many people get caught up in that recycle cycle, if that makes sense, because there's no support. So what do? Your option is, does it make sense to really leave this person? Or maybe we can fix it, or maybe I can convince them to stop. So maybe I should go back, because you feel so unsupported. More times than not, people stay in those situations for that.
It tears you down to the point that you are really weak when you're in the situation of domestic violence, that you can't even really make a plan. Like, where am I going to get an apartment? How am I going to afford it? How am I going to move? Because your nervous system is activated every single day from the moment you wake up, that you can't even think clearly. So it's not just because of feeling that you don't have resources. It's physically, you cannot actually think clear enough to execute any of it.
That's true. Plus, you add on the fact that maybe there's children or there's no family and friends to turn to because they've alienated you, or you have no job, or you have a job and they're taking the money from you. There's a lot of things. And, going back to what you were saying, Janice, that sometimes it's just easier to just try to function through the day. Just keep them calm. There's so many things.
Calm.
So many things that could set that off, and planning to leave with kids or no support would just put someone's mind just right over that edge. And it feels impossible. It's not impossible. All three of us have done it.
Yep.
You, Janice, I have to say that you were you were lucky to not have had kids to have to go through that.
Yeah.
Jada had children. I had children. I actually, So it is tough situation.
Yeah.
But victim blaming doesn't make it better.
Right. And we need safe places, to go to.
I almost think that there should be a class in, middle school, high school that teaches these kids about victim blaming, because it starts early.
I had even taught classes. When I was in college, I actually worked for our campus's safe space. And that was one of my first jobs, actually, when I was getting out of college. And we would go around to campus clubs and talk about victim blaming and just the sexist way that we're all socialized. And it still happened to me. I have to say, it's a little off the topic of what you were saying, but I had full awareness of what it was. And I'm just saying that because anybody can become a victim of domestic abuse, because these people are so good at what they do. And that's another thing that I actually, a couple of people told me, including my own mom, that the perpetrators go and seek out vulnerable people. Some people might think that that's kind of harmless to say, that you were vulnerable. That is not. I was not vulnerable. These people, they're not seeking us out because we're vulnerable. They're seeking us out because we're wonderful people and they want to be part of our lives. I did not cause it because of being weak or vulnerable.
Yeah.
There is this study that I did see about people who have that narcissistic tendencies gravitate and really want to be with empaths. And it's also like a control thing, putting cover over a light, so to speak. Some people go through that.
And and target you because they want to be a part of what you've got going on.
Right.
Also, some people just may not know how to channel their anger, but they may have seen that when they were growing up. I know, Christine, you had mentioned there should be a class and we should work on teaching our children to do better. But if that's what they've seen as what's right,
in home,
a lot of times they don't know. They you know, it takes a hard kick in the ass for them to get it together, or something unfortunate to happen. But I think a lot of it starts at home too.
And that's why it goes back to educating boys about appropriate ways to treat women and what violence really means for our society.
Yeah.
And how it does start at home, and it starts with you. How many people are teaching this to boys in elementary school?
Right.
No,
None.
they're not. And they should be. Have an after school fucking program. I don't care. Show them the right, proper way to treat other people. So like, as an example, when I was married, my in-laws were divorced. So he seemed like a perfectly great guy. And I don't know if he had any private tendencies to be violent at home. I don't know. It wasn't something that was talked about. But when I was dating my husband, when I was dating him, I saw at his mother's home holes behind the bathroom doors, holes in the hallway walls, holes in walls. And I was like, what is going on? You know what? And they're like, oh, just, shit happens, things get bumped or the door hit the wall or whatever. There was always a reason or excuse for it. And later, after the first time he hit me, and I went to his mom's place and his sisters for them to protect me, because I turned to them. We lived very close to them. They loved me. I loved them. The first time he hit me after we were married, they pretty much said, oh, damn, he was violent to us and it stopped when he started seeing you. So we thought maybe he was better. And it stopped being abusive here. So you didn't say anything. You didn't have any signs. We hoped that it had stopped. But no, he just was charming enough with me until he fucking married me and had me. Yep. And his family never spoke about the abuse prior, which they should have. They should have warned me from the beginning. He has violent tendencies. He might not be the guy for you, but I feel they wanted him gone. They wanted that.
They wanted to be done.
I can relate to that a lot. My ex's parents, I think, felt the same way. They confronted me within, I think, a week of moving in with him to let me know what a serious alcohol problem he had, which yes. And you could tell that they were a bit relieved to have a woman in the house because it had been causing them so much stress.
Yeah, and people hide it, and they don't bring it to light. And when shit like that happens, it perpetuates the situation, and then the victim gets blamed instead of the people who fucking taught him it was okay in the first place. They should have gotten him help the first time that he exhibited violent behavior.
I had their wrath because after they had confronted me about how serious his disease was and he didn't get better, and I guess I'd kept it from them, I was, constantly being contacted by them for either not being supportive enough or not letting people know what was going on. Like I had just taken on this responsibility for this grown-ass man because I happened to, be his significant other, and it shifted completely to me. And if you are dating somebody who has an alcohol problem, really do some soul searching because it is a living nightmare.
Yeah, you should. For me, my plan always was they had to have at least 5 years under their belt of sobriety, because there's a lot of times under 5 years that they can fall off the wagon very easily. When my first abuser, my first rape situation, he told me that the reason why he did it to me was because it had happened to him. that an aggressive girl raped him. And my first thought was, well, why didn't you just go get support and help? Maybe not, if he didn't feel like turning her in, because I am not judging a fucking soul who doesn't turn somebody in because of the situation. I'm sure he was embarrassed. I'm sure he was like confused, but for him to turn the situation around and do it to somebody else is vile.
How interesting. Wow.
Isn't that wild?
I'm so sorry. What a confusing thing for a teenager.
Yeah,
to have to navigate completely on your own. None of your elders or authority figures doing anything.
Yeah.
Well, if we didn't have victim blaming culture, he probably could have gotten help and it never would have happened to me from him. You know what I mean? If my ex-husband's family had just got him help when he started exhibiting signs of it, then, at home with them, then it wouldn't have happened with me. I don't know. People just don't do enough to help people. And
well, we don't have hardly any examples of people who go and report things or go to the cops and anything really happens. That's why the Me Too movement has been so effective, is because now we actually have a place where we can go and hold abusers responsible. And and it's public. And maybe that's even just as bad, because if you try and solve it through the court system, no one might even hear about it. It might just be swept under the rug, and you're going to be going through years of hell and legal fees and all of these things, and nothing's going to happen. But you can now go online and point out an abuser, and there's going to be actual consequences. And that's why so many women are taken to the internet to expose abusers, because that something actually happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Because finally,
more of a safer space, I think. The Me Too movement,
that was the greatest thing that could have happened.
Created so much more of a safer space and forum for people to say, okay, this is what happened.
I also think that the Me Too movement allowed women to see that it wasn't just happening to them, that it's happening widespread. All of us, every color, size, age, it didn't matter. It was happening to all of us. And it allowed us to really start to bond and to be there for each other. And I hope that it continues to move. Rebel says something really quick. She said, doing it to someone else does not take away your pain, and it doesn't make you any better than the person who did it to you. That's so true. It's,
Yeah, I want to touch on that, because we do often hear that people do horrendous things because of things that happen in your childhood. And it's really important that we don't get too carried away with that, because everybody has horrible things that happen in your childhood, and it's how you deal with it as an adult. That's up to you.
Yeah. I mean,
childhood trauma is real. It's your responsibility.
Real. Well, and it shapes a lot of how you manage your relationships if you haven't healed through that trauma.
Right here, folks, look at it. It took me 50 some years to heal from childhood trauma, which led into adulthood trauma, which led into me making choices to marry people who were not good to me, just because I didn't think I was worthy or good enough or deserved better. I just, I do think that it is our responsibility as adults to start changing that cycle, but it just seems to perpetuate over and over and over. And, maybe starting with, helping people learn what victim blaming is and starting to stop that, starting to get help when we see signs of trauma, that is exuding out of you towards other people. It's not okay.
Go online and talk about it. One of the tips I gave in the mini-sode that I did, everybody loves true crime. These are real life stories. So instead of just consuming it for entertainment, go on, talk to your friends about it, go online, talk about these actual cases, and let's get more visibility for the actual issue of domestic violence rather than just having fun watching it and listening about it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
This was good.
This was great. thank you, Janice, for coming on the show today. We're so happy to have you back. Anybody who's out there who is experiencing any kind of violent behavior towards you, there are resources online, and you can, like I've always said, every time you can turn to us. We are here to get you in the right direction and help you as much as we can. And hopefully today's episode has touched somebody and it means something to them, and it can help you start to be more conscientious of how we speak to others, especially when it comes to abuse and violence, and not blaming the fucking victim. Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for coming today. Mm-hmm. Love you, Jada. Love you, Janice.
Love you.
Yep. Yep. Same place, same time, same everything next week. And until then, let's keep this shit real. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends, like and follow us on Instagram at 50 Shades of _bullshit and Facebook at 50 Shades of Bullshit. Thanks so much for listening, and we really hope to see you again next week.